What's up everyone and welcome back to another daily outlook for the last day of the week this time, and let's see how this week is going to end. So as you can see, yesterday we had that daily fractal break in towards the upside, but it was just a week yesterday. Look at this individual candlestick, and that's why I was thinking that it might be a liquidity grab, but as you can see today we are trading one more time above that high. Going over to the 4 hour, you can see it more clearly, and you can see that we are now going to trade another time above this high, right? So now we could see some upside movement on DXY, and yeah, that's also what I'm going to look for the next couple of hours, or for today and maybe even next week. So this is our order flow, which is now bullish because we are creating demand zones every time. We didn't yet trade it above this high, but I think that soon we will. So yeah, let's see. After we break that high, then we create this demand zone, and from this demand zone I will be looking to trade up higher again. Okay, so for the guys that don't know or didn't see my analysis or my daily outlooks before, we grabbed the liquidity under this low, and now I'm looking at upside on the DXY if we see that confirmation, which we are now seeing. So at the moment I am looking at a little bit more upside to trade a bit, or trade a retracement, and then after a while or after confirmation I will look back at shorts. So with this in mind, going back to Euro USD, I might look for shorts because yeah, the DXY should go up, and if the DXY should trade up higher, then Euro USD should trade down lower. So what we can see is that we grab liquidity above this high, so we could see a retracement, of course. But for now, this daily demand is still in control, this daily imbalance candle over here, and this could push price back up higher, right? So I want to see that daily fractal low break, which is also that demand. So I want to see that go, create supply, and from that supply I will look at shorts. So I'm going to get my alert on that daily fractal, and then I will go on to the next pair, because for the rest I'm not looking at anything, right? I am only looking at this, and if this doesn't happen, then I won't trade on Euro USD for today. Going over to GBP USD on the daily, still inside that supply. So let's go over to the 4 hour and let's see how it looks like. So in that supply, right, we have this refined supply zone over here, kind of like this, and we are now trading in that supply zone. So what is happening? We got a 4 hour fractal break over here yesterday in towards the downside, and this should be our second 4 hour fractal break. Now what I do not like is I think that this high is CPY, yeah, exactly. So this high is not a good high in my opinion, because it's a news high, right? So I'm going to write down news so I know it, and then yeah, even after a double 4 hour fractal break, that high is still not good for me, so I want to see that high go. And also what you can see is all of that liquidity built up above these highs, so I think that there could be a swipe, and then we could see some confirmation, or at least that is what I'm waiting for, because I want to trade A+ setups where I feel comfortable trading, right? Because these highs are not valid in my opinion, and I need to see those swipe first before going to short. Okay, going over to AUD USD then, as you guys can see, we have bullish order flow on AUD USD, and it could already trade up higher. So over here let me just go and analyze from the beginning. So we are 4 hour bullish, we are traded in demand, we took liquidity, and of course premium or discount prices got touched, so we can trade up higher to make a new swing higher, right? So now we can trade up higher to that swing high. So if you now look at the order flow, we see that we have created a new demand zone which got respected, create a new demand zone which looks like it now got respected because we broke above this supply, and now we broke above that, so we created demand, and now this demand, so this sell before the buy over here, this could push price up higher again. So what you can see that we also took some liquidity inside that supply, and from here we could trade up higher, right? So now I'm looking at longs, and I will go over to the 1 hour and see how we can enter longs. So first of all, I'm going to draw down the liquidity, so I know that we grab liquidity, and that is CPY over here, so not the best thing. Let me see. Okay, so I often think the news candles just away because they are not real candles where there has been traded a lot. So this should be my 1 hour fractal break. If you think away this big news candle from CPY, and then this should be your second fractal break. So we got a second fractal break, and then this is for me the latest demand zone, which is still valid in my opinion. And I think that if we trade in towards that, I will look for some longs to trade up higher again. Now possibly I will just wait for next week, because as you guys can see, price is a bit rangy though, and I don't like trading rangy, and you can see that we kind of had some trend line liquidity over here. So that's why I'm just going to wait this out, and also because of this news candle, it's not the best price action in my opinion. So I'm going to wait this one out and come back on Monday. But if you think that it's okay even after that range, and you can see that order flow is forming, for example, we had this demand zone over here, right? And then we created a new demand zone over here, and this is now a new demand zone, right? So if you think, okay, I think there's clear bullish order flow, I think I can take a long here, then you should do, because it's still valid to take a long in line with the trend, the demand, the liquidity, the discount prices that we touched. So in line with everything, it's nice, but just this rangy price action is not it for me. I would like to see maybe one more swipe, then confirmation, or maybe break above the high, so it's clear that we are now going to trade up higher, retracement, and then I will long at this moment in time. So in my opinion, I'm just going to wait this one out. NZD USD, going over to the daily, let's see. Okay, so for me, institutional buyers are stepping in. You can see that this big candle swiped this low and then just trade up higher. A lot of buyers stepped in, which indicates to me that it might be institutional buyers. And then you can see after grabbing liquidity over here, we are giving a V-shaped reaction, right? So that also indicates to me that there are a lot of big buyers stepping in. So now I think that we could get a falling knife. We call so a big movement towards upside, some consolidation, and then again upside, right? So going over to the 4 hour now, I'm exactly the same as AUD, swing bullish, liquidity, and we are going to trade in towards that swing high. Now the only thing is that we miss connection on this demand zone, so that is not the best thing, of course. Now looking at the 4 hour fractal, we still haven't broke the 4 hour fractal, and we still have bearish order flow. So we had this supply right over here, this was our supply, and then we created this as our supply, and now we have this as our supply. So we still have bearish order flow, and what could this do? Push price down lower, and then from this demand I will wait for an order flow switch, and then we can take a plus long setup to that swing high. So of course price could already go, but that's not valid in my opinion. So I will wait for this demand to get touched, then the overflow switch, and then we can trade beautifully to that high. So going over now to the yen pairs, we traded down lower as expected. So going over to the daily once again, you can very clearly see that we broke the daily fractal over here and we respected the fractal high over here, indicating to me that we are going to trade down lower. Over here we kind of failed to break the low, but it looks like we are now just trading down lower and could then break that fractal again. So looking at the 4 hour, let's see. Okay, so yesterday we traded up higher and we grabbed liquidity above this high, but now we got a fractal break to the upside over here and now a fractal break to the downside, which means that we now created another supply zone, indicating that there is a lot of sell pressure. So we now have this supply, which is looking really nice to push price back down again. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at, and of course this would be something that you could trade on the yen, but of course you cannot trade the yen basket. So yeah, that's why I'm going to leave this one out, of course. Going over to euro yen, let's see at the daily first. At the daily, we missed connection on this daily, these 2 wicks over here, but of course, yeah, if you look at the whole sell before buy, we tapped in towards that, so we could also already trade down, trade up higher again, right, to take out those liquidity highs. Because why am I looking at longs? We took liquidity over here, so I think that we can take liquidity at those highs. Okay, now of course for me it's not looking too nice to go long at this moment in time. Okay, you are inside this demand, right, you tapped in towards that demand, but then again look at what the rest is doing. Okay, we are swing bullish, that's correct. Okay, we are in that demand zone, that's correct. Okay, we took liquidity, that's correct, we could trade up higher possibly. But if you look at the premium versus discount, we didn't yet tap in towards the discount prices. So what I'm waiting for is to tap in towards the discount prices, tap in towards that open demand and take liquidity under those lows, and from here I will look at a long setup to take out those highs, right? So this is what I'm waiting for, and I don't care if we now get a 4 hour fractal break over here, because yeah, it's not an A plus setup in my opinion. So yeah, looking at the 1 hour though, you could say, okay, now this is my 1 hour swing, right? And let me remove the premium versus discount real quick. So this is my 1 hour swing, this is my swing high that I want to break, and we took liquidity over here, right? And we traded in towards this demand zone, and this could push price up higher, especially now if we break this 4 hour fractal, which we now just did. This was our 4 hour fractal, and then what do? You create a new demand which could push price up higher. So then you could say, okay, now what do I see? Well, I see a refined demand zone over here, right? This sell before the buy, like this, and then you could place your stop loss under the safe for our fractal low, and then you could trade up higher and make a new swing high, of course, right? And once we break this high, you could then put your trade on break even. But like I said, this could play out with the yen basket that should drop, but of course we want to trade A plus setups, or at least I want to trade A plus setups. So I'm not going to take this one, even though it's kind of valid. I'm just not going to do it, because I really think that if we trade in towards this demand zone, then this is the real A plus setup, right? So let's just say we see this. This is the A plus setup over here. And if I take this setup over here, it is nice, but let's just say it hits stop loss and trades over here. Then I'm thinking to myself, like, why did I take this trade? I know that this trade is far more A plus, so that's why I'm just going to leave this one out, right? Not trading is also trading, guys. Okay, going over to the next pair, GBP Yen. Okay, so we can see that we have clear bullish order flow, and we now create a new demand zone. So look at this, guys. So look at the institutional buyers. First of all, we grab liquidity under this low, meaning that we could take liquidity above these highs, right? So over here, institutional buyers stepping in, right? And let me go a bit to the right. So over here, more institutional buyers stepping in after grabbing liquidity. Once again, grabbing liquidity, big moving towards the upside. Institutional buyers over here grabs liquidity under these lows. Institutional buyers buying. Then over here, grabbing liquidity, once again, institutional buyers could step in the market. So yeah, I think I'm looking at longs from this demand zone because we have so clear bullish order flow, and we should take out at least this liquidity and possibly this liquidity too. I'm already inside this swing position, but I'm looking for a scale in, and let me explain why I want to look at this liquidity. That is a nice liquidity point for me. So on a daily, you can see that we grab liquidity under this low, and at this moment in time, once we took liquidity, what is the first liquidity that we see? This high over here. So I think that this high could possibly get some reaction, but I think that yeah, from there we could just trade up higher in towards this liquidity high. But of course, we could also see a huge drop after grabbing that liquidity, right? So keep that in mind with your risk management when trading. Okay, so let's just say now we want to go long from this demand zone. Then I will go over to the 1 hour and see how I am going to scale in this opportunity. Now let me use the opens and let's see. Okay, so once again we have this 1 hour demand, and now we create new demand, right? And this got tapped perfectly over here. So let's just say you had the balls to take this already, and your stop loss underneath this demand zone to trade in towards those highs. Now this could be a nice trade, right? Because as you can see, we had a demand zone which got respected and created a new demand zone, and then you can see that we had some liquidity under these lows, right, which we now took out over here with this demand zone. And yeah, this could be a nice trade which I just missed out on. So looking at the 50-minute, this was a really nice trade, and let me show it on the 50-minute. So visible on current and below. Going over to the 50-minute, like this would be your trade on top of this demand zone. And yeah, I think that I just missed out on this one, but it looks so nice to trade up higher, right? So let's just say price trades down lower again. What am I looking to see? So not this trade anymore, because it's just not valid anymore. Let's look at the 1 hour. Okay, yeah, I might wait for a retracement for some liquidity to get grabbed, like maybe 50% or something in that case, right? Like take a liquidity underneath here, because a lot of buyers are stepping into the market, right? And then we could see them swipe first, and then we could trade up higher. So yeah, this is what I'm waiting for. Of course, I'm not going to buy again over here, because we might get a retracement before we go long again. So I'm going to wait for something like this to happen. But of course, the trade that I should have had to take, yeah, I was too late. But of course, just be patient now, wait for some liquidity to get grabbed, and then you could go long again in towards the highs or this liquidity high, right, which I explained on the daily, which you could easily trade into us. Okay, going over to the next pair, USD Yen. As you guys can see, we are now respecting the demand zone. So we had this as our demand, and now we have this as our demand, which holds, and we created a new demand zone inside that demand. So now this is sorry guys, so now this is your demand zone, which could push price up higher again. Okay, I said I was looking to go short from this supply, but I didn't find any entry, and also the demands were still in control. We should have seen some order flow switch, but that didn't happen. Okay, so at this moment in time, I think we can maybe trade up higher once we break this high, and then we can look at longs again. But yeah, keep in mind that we still miss connection on that weekly demand, so I think that I'm just going to leave this one out, because obviously we're still inside this weekly supply, which could push price down lower in towards the demand and then trade up higher. So I'm just going to leave this one out and see what price is going to do and come back next week. Okay, going over to AUD Yen. As you guys can see, we grabbed liquidity under this low, so we could sooner or later see a pullback occur. Okay, we can also see that we have some liquidity above the highs, which looks really nice to take out after that daily fractal occurs. Okay, so now this supply of course is in control and could push price down lower, but after we break this fractal, then longs are a plus. Looking at the 4 hour, we already turned 4 hour swing bullish, and we made a nice low over here. Why did we make a nice low? Because we had early buyers, we swiped early buyers, so we took their stop loss, and now the real move into the upside can happen, of course, right? Like I explained perfectly in my previous outlooks, we grabbed liquidity under this low, and now we could trade up higher again, right? So this now is your 4 hour fractal, and if you break this 4 hour fractal, then the chances are that we trade up higher, they are really high. So I might be looking at longs, because on the 4 hour we are swing bullish. We made a perfect low, we took liquidity and trade into this demand zone. So after we break this, we have enough confirmation, in my opinion, to trade up higher again. Okay, so then what happens after we break this high? What am I looking for? Now, of course, if you break that high, then we could see that this demand zone is now formed, right? So what do? I will then go over to the 1 hour and see what I want to see, right? So then I can see that we have some liquidity over here, and I would like to see a swipe, get some liquidity taken, then a 1 hour fractal break, and then from that 1 hour fractal break, I know, okay, price has given enough confirmation for me to trade up higher. So this might also be something that I am going to look for today. Okay, going over to NZD Yen, I am now inside this swing position, which is booming at the moment, and let me explain why I am in this swing position. Okay, so let's see, and let me grab some of, okay, no, I wanted to grab some arrows, but I will just show it. Over here we had some sellers stepping into the market, then over here we had some sellers too, some sellers. Now where do they take liquidity? At this low over here, right? At this low. So all of these sellers, they are still in a trade, let's just say, and they want to take liquidity under this low. We now see that we failed to break that low, and then for a second time we failed to break the low. So what are we going to do? Take liquidity above the highs, take for example these stop losses, yearly level tap, and then we can take liquidity at the lows, for example. Okay, so I hope that is clear, that all of these sellers are going to take profit at this liquidity point, and that's why the market will get or take liquidity first before trading down lower again. Now, you don't just randomly buy before grabbing that liquidity, but you wait for confirmation. Now, normally confirmation are fractal breaks, especially daily fractal breaks, but we don't have any daily fractal break over here. But of course, we failed to break that low, and for not just for one time, but for a second time. So now that really indicates to me that we can trade up higher. And if you look at the 4 hour, what can we see? That we turned 4 hour swing bullish over here. This is our swing bullish, and this is our swing high that we are going to break next. What I then saw is that we had some bullish order flow because we had this demand zone which got respected and pushed price up higher. Then we had this demand zone where there was some liquidity over here at this low, right? And the monthly open. So what did I do? I placed my entry on top, my stop loss over here for 104 pips or 105 pips. And why is that big of a stop loss? Because there is enough room to trade up higher and take those liquidity highs. Okay, so this is going to be a long trade, of course, but I am fine with it because, yeah, I like to take more that kind of swing positions where I'm really sure of my position or my analysis, right? And where I know that my stop loss is really safe. So now we have another 4 hour fractal break. So what do? We create new demand, of course. Okay, so what I could now do is place my stop loss under this low to reduce any risk, but I'm not going to do that because like I said, we might get some swipe and then trade up higher, and my stop loss is safe over here, right? My stop loss is still safe, so I'm just going to write this and wait for TP or stop loss to get hit. So yeah, you can also see, guys, perfect example of that monthly open pushing price up higher again. Okay, and by the way, this isn't our 4 hour fractal break because our 4 hour fractal break happened yesterday over here, or happened this morning over here at this high. Because let me just explain that real quick for you guys. Over here we broke the 4 hour fractal. Here we didn't break above the high, so this was still our fractal. Then we broke the fractal low, then we broke the fractal low, and then we broke the fractal high. So that was a quick explanation on why this is your 4 hour fractal and not this high. But then again, we now just traded above this high, so we created new demand, which is really nice for this position to trade up higher. Now what am I looking for today? A possible scaling, of course. Now the perfect thing I want to see is trade back in towards this demand zone, right? Boom, a pullback in towards the weekly and monthly open once again, and from here trade up higher. So this would be the best thing I would want to see. But if I go over to the 1 hour, what am I going to look at? Of course, possibly the 50% level first, which is around this 1 hour demand. And from here, I could look at some longs again, okay? So I will just wait for a small pullback to occur. If I then see some 1 hour fractal breaks occur and see some order flow, right, demand so is getting respected, then I will long in towards that swing high. Okay, so going over to my next pair, Swiss Yen. Unfortunately, I didn't took the trade that I set yesterday, and I had my limit on it, so it's completely my fault because I removed my limit. But there was some fundamental news on the yen basket, which was which could give some strength to the yen. So if the yen gets it gets stronger, then this means that XXX yen pairs or Swiss yen, for example, trades down lower. So I'm still inside this swing position, but this was a trade that I wanted to take with my stop loss over here. And then of course A1 to 3 would have already hit TP, as you guys can see. Take liquidity under this low, V-shaped reaction, and this is a perfect example of a institutional play. So once again, guys, grab liquidity, boom, trade up higher. Grab liquidity, boom, trade up higher. Grab liquidity, boom, trade up higher. Grab liquidity, once again over here, grab liquidity, and boom, trade up higher. So this buy over here is a perfect institutional play. So yeah, I think that we can take some liquidity above the highs, right? Now, what I'm now looking for is possibly this daily fractal to break again, boom, and then I will look at this demand zone to trade up higher. Now, why am I not looking at any longs? Because as you guys can see on a daily, we are kind of in a range at the moment, so I really want to see a breakout, a pullback, and then I will take longs. Okay, so yeah, really unfortunate that I didn't take that trade, but that is trading and I'm still inside this trade, so that's okay. Okay, going over to CAD Yen, I was also explaining these longs in my outlooks. Like, once again, guys, really clean price action. We take major liquidity under these two lows. Like, look on a weekly, major liquidity, right? So what could we do now? Of course, trade up higher in towards that swing high. So going over to the daily now, the only thing that held me back was this daily supply, which could push price down lower again. But if you look at the 4-hour, really clean price action, we got early buyers after grabbing that liquidity. We swipe early buyers, like it's in every example, guys. We swipe early buyers, we make a nice low, and now the real move in towards upside will happen. So then we had this demand zone with some internal liquidity over here. We, like I explained, you could put your entry on top of that early or that internal liquidity with your stop loss under the safe low, and you could swing this up higher to take out those highs. And as you guys can see, guys, it's playing out perfectly for now. For our fractal break over here, once again, oh, boom. And now what did you do? You created new demand, and this could push price up higher. So like, if you just want to swing this again, put your entry on top of this sell candle, your stop loss under the lows, and then just like put a swing position. This is what you could do, right? And of course, these trades are going to be, you're going to be in them for about a week or so, maybe a bit more or less. But yeah, these trades are really, really clean. Like, I'm still going to get out of this. I'm not going to step into some trades because that daily supply is still in control and still could push price up higher. But if you look at the 4-hour, then you can very clearly see that order flow getting created and that you could trade up higher. But again, I'm stepping out of this because I'm already in Swiss Yen long and GBP Yen long and NZD Yen long. So I am just waiting on more setups to occur on the pairs that I'm already in for scale ins, because I don't want to spread my long positions out too much. But that was it, guys. This was a very, very learnful daily outlook, but I hope you learned something. So see you in the next one. Ciao, guys.